Hi, folks. You know, Democrats never miss a chance to turn politics into self-parody. Today, we've got mayors pretending to be philosophers, blaming Chicago shootings on red state bullets as if guns sprout legs and march north like migrating geese. Then, out here in LA, Mayor Karen is declaring moral victory because the White House dared to call her out. Talk about a bass line that's way off key. Democrats keep insisting they're the party of unity, but every time they open their mouths, it sounds more like karaoke night at a collapsing empire. So today, we're diving into the greatest hits of denial, blame shifting, and performative resistance, starting with Chicago's own Brandon Johnson, who manages to blame everyone but himself while his city keeps setting records nobody wants.
We will never be able to end gun violence in Chicago as long as the president continues to allow tens of thousands of guns to be trafficked into our state and our city.
Oh, come on.
The vast majority of guns do not come from Chicago.
Uh-huh.
They are not made in Cook County. They are not bought in the state of Illinois.
Huh.
These guns come from red states.
Uh-huh.
They are coming from Indiana. They are coming from Mississippi. They are coming from Louisiana.
Shameless.
That is the harsh reality.
Shameless.
Whether Republicans like it or not. Occupying our city will do nothing to solve this problem.
Liar. Democrats really do have the easiest job in politics. When things go wrong, just spin the wheel of blame. It always lands on the same spot. Trump, Republicans, or red state. Never themselves. Talk about Olympic level cope. Gaslighting so strong, it should come with a PG-13 warning. And now we got Brandon Johnson wanting us to believe that after nearly 4 decades of Democrat rule in Chicago, with Chirac still being a war zone, it's suddenly Donald Trump's fault that Democrats can't do their jobs. Please, spare us, okay? Now let's check the receipts for a second, because Chicago has been run exclusively by Democrats since 1989. That's 36 years of one-party rule. During that time, the city became internationally famous for gun violence. Between 2019 and 22 alone, Chicago saw an average of 770 homicides a year, according to the Chicago Police Department's annual reports. In 21, Chicago hit 797 murders, the highest in 25 years, according to the Chicago Police Department's 21 annual report. That wasn't Trump's doing. That was decades of Democrat-filled policy. Now we've got Brandon Johnson saying the harsh reality is that guns come from red states like Indiana or Mississippi. Sure, many guns in Chicago are trafficked from out of state. Roughly 60% of guns recovered in Chicago crimes originate outside Illinois, according to the Chicago Gun Trace Report from 2017, published by the Chicago Police Department and the University of Chicago Crime Lab. But here's the kicker, folks. That's been the case for decades. This isn't new. This isn't the silver bullet explanation. Why haven't Democrat mayors fixed the problem in 30 years? Because the issue isn't Indiana. It's not Mississippi. It's Chicago leadership. It's Democrats, in this case, lacking it. This is the cope cycle in action, folks. Democrats control a city. They control a state. They control the policies on policing, sentencing, bail, and local enforcement. Yet when the violence spikes, suddenly it's all Trump or Republicans or red states. Never Democrat policies. Never the soft on crime Democrat ideology. Just guns. Sure, keep blaming the inanimate object, not the people pulling the trigger, or yourselves for having zero policies that actually address any of the actual issues.
If you really cared about violent crime, go after the gun manufacturers who are just mass producing these weapons and have no liability or accountability. Go
All right,
after the
Sid.
gun stores that know that they're selling to straw purchasers that flood into our city. Pass common sense gun reform.
Relax,
that we have been
Beetlejuice.
begging for decades. Those are the kinds of things that actually would make a meaningful difference in violent crime.
Sure.
He's not talking about any of those things. He will not do any of those things because this is not about violent crime. It's about something else.
Sid from Ice Age should just take a chill pill because she had her shot as mayor of Chicago and she utterly failed. Lori Lightfoot could have solved this problem, but she did absolutely nothing. In fact, she did quite the opposite. She stoked the flames of racial grievance while crime surged on her watch. And right now, she's using a problem that she and her allies have failed to resolve in Chicago for decades to push something bigger, to effectively strip Americans of their constitutional rights, folks. That's the play here. Because let's be real, Democrats are doubling down on allowing criminality, siding with criminality, and blaming the inanimate object. Folks, this is the equivalent of blaming a pencil for failing a test. If you keep blaming the object instead of the individual behind the object, you clearly have a political agenda and zero interest in actual accountability. Lightfoot says Trump should have gone after manufacturers and gun stores instead of focusing on violent crime, but let's look at the record. During her tenure, again, Chicago saw 797 homicides in 2021, the highest in 25 years, according to the Chicago Police Department's annual report. And while murders have declined more recently, the long-term trend is undeniable. Chicago has consistently ranked among the nation's deadliest cities, despite some of the strictest gun laws in the country, according to the FBI uniform crime reports. If the laws already on the books couldn't solve the problem, why would layering it on new federal restrictions magically fix any of it? But here's the real kicker, folks. Democrats claim it's red state guns are fueling Chicago violence. But if that's the case, why doesn't the Democrat governor, J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, use state police to intercept them? They've controlled the governor's office for years. If interstate trafficking is the whole story, why hasn't Democrat state leadership actually addressed this? Because that's not the problem, folks. The deeper issue is what happens once those guns hit the streets. Decades of soft on crime policies, revolving door jails, reduced sentencing, and police forces stripped of resources. According to Cook County records, prosecutors under Kim Foxx dropped or dismissed tens of thousands of felony cases between 2017 and 21, including nearly a third of all felony gun prosecutions. That's not Indiana's fault. That's a Chicago and Illinois fault. So let's connect the dots, because Democrats love to blame the gun, not the criminal. They pass laws that reduce the weight of crimes, they defund police departments, and then they feign outrage when violence predictably spikes. And when pressed, they point outward to Trump, to Republicans, to gun shops hundreds of miles away. Anything but themselves, right? Why? Because perpetual crisis justifies bigger government. If crime is never solved, they can always argue for more regulation, more surveillance, more restrictions on law-abiding citizens, and more trampling on your rights. That's why Lori Lightfoot's rhetoric here matters. It's not just hope, it's strategy. By blaming objects and outsiders, Democrats get to dodge accountability while moving the Overton window further toward normalizing government intrusion into your life. And culturally, it feeds a narrative they've been selling through media and education for years. Individuals are not responsible. Systems are. The criminal becomes a victim, while the average citizen who wants to defend themselves becomes the suspect. Isn't that convenient?
It's great when the numbers go down, but people don't walk around saying, I feel 22% safer.
Yeah.
What do you think people feel like is happening in Chicago?
It's bad.
Well, I tell you one thing they feel like. They feel like there are too damn many guns in Chicago, and they're coming in from other states like Indiana.
Shut up!
The federal government want to help us stop this flow of weapons into our city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. We know they're coming in from state with lax laws when it comes to firearms, and the federal government can do something about it. What has this president done about it? He's dramatically eliminated the people who are supposed to make sure these gun dealers are held to the law. That's an important step to really reduce the crime in the area and reduce the concern of local officials.
Democrats are so utterly shameless, it's bizarre to witness. These people go on television, lie through their teeth, and completely dodge accountability in every way, shape, and form. They never offer real solutions, just finger pointing. And here's Dick Durbin, who has been in Washington for decades as Illinois senator, essentially admitting he's accomplished nothing. Chicago has been under Democrat rule since 1989. And during his tenure, the city has consistently ranked among the deadliest in America. If Durbin's answer is still blame Indiana, blame Trump, what does that say about his own record? It says he's presided over decades of failure while lecturing everyone else. And that's a deeper issue here, folks. Democrats like Durbin sustain power not by fixing problems, but by perpetuating crisis. They frame criminals as victims, blame inanimate objects, and scapegoat political opponents because a perpetual state of chaos justifies their grip on government. This is a culture of evasion Democrats have built through media, education, politics, every medium that they get access to. They effectively take hostage for this lack of accountability that they've mastered. They keep the crisis alive, they keep the public afraid, and never, ever admit that they've failed, which they have for decades in so many states. Illinois is just one case. California is another where they've had single one-party rule for decades and just effectively run the state into the ground. And since we're on the topic of running California into the ground, Governor Gavin Newsom has been going around talking about how crime is down or comparing the crime rate in entire states to single cities in California as though anybody's stupid enough to believe that. Well, guess what, folks? Recently, we had the Mexican national football team come and play a match out here in California, and they were in Oakland for a couple of days, and guess what happened?
A high-profile break-in in Oakland. We're learning the Mexican national soccer team was robbed yesterday. Telemundo has confirmed with the team it happened in the parking lot of their downtown hotel where they're staying. The team says the thieves broke into their truck and stole balls, flags, cones, and shirts. We did reach out to Oakland police tonight, but they're not available for comment.
Of course.
Mexico plays Japan in a friendly match this coming Saturday at the Oakland Coliseum.
America has decisively become a third world nation because this kind of stuff only happens in the third world, folks. I know this because I grew up in the third world. I remember teams, artists, and big names coming down to Brazil to play matches or perform, and one of their recurring trends was always them getting robbed. It got so predictable, they would bring extra security, and sometimes even then, the cartels embedded people inside the security teams just to pull off the job. Folks, let me tell you something. Once you reach the point where international visitors can't come into your country and do their jobs without getting mugged, it's almost impossible to turn back. It reflects terribly on the nation's reputation, and sadly, what used to be a warning about Latin America is now a headline out of Oakland, California. So think about the symbolism here. The Mexican national soccer team preparing for a match in Oakland, robbed in broad daylight out of their hotel parking lot. Their truck hit, gear stolen, balls, flags, cones, even jerseys, basic stuff, but the point isn't the price tag. The point is the sheer lawlessness. And Oakland Police Department, well, unavailable for comment. I wonder why. Maybe because the department doesn't have the manpower. Just last week, Oakland police admitted they couldn't even respond to a massive car sideshow with hundreds of people because they didn't have the officers or vehicles. That's not just bad luck. That's what happens when a city deliberately strips its own police department of resources and morale. And here's where Democrats come in. Oakland, like much of California, has been run by Democrats for decades. Their ideology, defunding police, demonizing law enforcement, tolerating crime in the name of equity, has hollowed out public safety in most of these states. Barbara Lee and other Oakland leaders now say they want to hire more officers, but nobody wants the job. Why? Well, maybe because of a decade of Democrats pushing ACAB philosophy, branding cops as the root of all evil. They destroyed trust in policing, and now they're shocked that recruitment has collapsed. According to state data, California police departments have seen applications drop by over 70% since 2010, while retirements and resignations surged after 2020. Any coincidence? When BLM happened? I mean, just think about it, folks. What sane person wants to sign up for a profession where your leaders throw you under the bus, criminals are released without bail, and you have no support whatsoever to do your job? And this is where Greasy Gavin's narrative breaks down. He loves to insist that crime is down in California, but people don't walk around feeling 17% safer, folks. They see robberies, sideshows, break-ins, thefts on their block, in their neighborhoods, even against an international sports team. According to FBI's 2022 Uniform Crime Report, California recorded more violent crimes than any other state in raw numbers. And cities like Oakland and San Francisco rank among the worst in the nation for property crime. That's not perception, folks. That's stark reality. And when leaders tell you to ignore what you see with your own eyes, it just corrodes trust even further. And one of those so-called leaders is Mayor Karen from LA, the communist who always looks like she's getting over a hangover. Well, she recently went on television, on CNN of all places, and said this.
Our city has stood together, stood strong. There hasn't been a crack.
What?
The city has not been divided. And I think that the administration might have thought that they were going to divide people here, but everybody is appalled by it. Even people who
don't speak for me, lady,
policy are appalled by the tactics because it has done nothing positive for the city of Los Angeles.
Sit down.
Mayor Karen Bass, thank you.
It is absolutely insane. Now, losers like Mayor Karen can go on television and make these wild, sweeping claims, pretending she speaks for all 10 million people in Los Angeles without getting a shred of pushback from CNN. This woman is lying through her teeth. Sure, She's got the activist class behind her, the NGOs funding AstroTurf demonstrations, but let's be real. A huge share of this city wants something very different. People here want safer streets, fewer illegal immigrants, overwhelming services, and actual leadership, not hollow sound bites. This city is not united behind Mayor Karen. Los Angeles County alone has millions of Republicans and independent voters. Are we supposed to believe they all stand with a mayor who prioritizes non-citizens over citizens and parrots the party line like a shameless communist? It's absurd. In fact, her behavior highlights how broken our politics have become. Dishonesty is rewarded, truth is punished, and leaders posture instead of govern. Frankly, there should be a lie jar for politicians. Every time they go on TV and spout verifiable nonsense, money should come straight out of their paycheck, because what Mayor Karen is doing here isn't leadership. It's self-preservation wrapped in propaganda, and it should never be tolerated. So the real question is this, folks. How much longer are we going to let the Democrats in charge tell us that what we see with our own eyes isn't real? How long do we accept polished speeches, choreographed outrage, and convenient scapegoats in place of actual accountability? You don't have to agree with me on every policy point to recognize a pattern. Democrats thrive on division. Institutions reward deception, and narratives are designed to keep you docile while the problems affecting you fester. So the challenge isn't just political, it's cultural. Do we still have the courage to demand honesty, or are we content to live in a nation where propaganda replaces truth? Because in the end, folks, the strength of a free society isn't measured by how loud its leaders speak. It's measured by how willing its people are to see through the lies. You tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.